You're listening to the Trailblazers Podcast, episode 29 with Phaon Spurlock.
You're listening to the Trailblazers Podcast, where we will explore the stories of successful Black professionals. Join us as we highlight the knowledge, resources, and tools of these accomplished trailblazers to help provide the know-how, confidence, and motivation you need to blaze your trail. And now, here's your host, Stephen Hart.
What is up, Trailblazers? Thank you so very much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you're enjoying the Summer Olympic Games. I've been just so over the moon excited with the success of our Black athletes, especially. Of course, you know, I'm pleased and delighted to have two of the best countries in the world to root for during the Olympic Games, the US and Jamaica. This week we saw our women dominate, right? From Simone Manuel in swimming events. She came home with 4 medals in her first Olympic Games. She's the first Black woman to secure an individual medal in swimming. I saw, us dominate. Michelle Carter winning a gold in shot put. Simone Biles already securing several gold medals with a few more events still to come. On the Jamaican side, we saw Elaine Thompson and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price continue to dominate the track on women's 100 meter. And it's just rare for me to really speak about live events on the podcast because our content's evergreen and someone might be listening a year from now and saying, who cares? But this is Black history in the making. And this is applicable at any point in time you listen to this podcast. It's exciting to me. And I'm just so ready to bring some of these athletes onto the podcast in the weeks and months ahead. So if you've got ties to any of these medal winners, please connect us. I'd love to bring them on the show. So on today's episode, we're talking with Phaon Spurlock. Phaon is in the marketing world. He's a communications manager for Multicultural Marketing at Prudential Financial. He's the founder of LuxuriousPROTOTYPE, which is an online men's lifestyle magazine. He's also founder and is about to launch BKLYN League. By the time you guys hear this episode, BKLYN League would have been launched. It's a men's apparel, accessories, and home goods platform. And, so when you finish listening to this episode, please jump off. Check out BKLYN League, show Phaon some love and support. His professional background, as I mentioned, is in marketing, and he's worked with several brands, including Major League Baseball, the New York State Senate, USA Network, and McDonald's, just to name a few. He serves in a ton of organizations and gives back as a philanthropist. He's a junior board member at the Eagle Academy Foundation. He's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, a member of Carnegie Hall. He gives back in terms of community service to #Lunchbag, Impulse Group, NYC, Eagle Academy, as I mentioned a moment ago, the American Museum of Natural History, Order of Malta, Black Lives Matter Movement, Evidence Dance Company, the Guggenheim Museum. This guy just gives back a ton, man. And, he's a Brooklyn, New York resident, but a Baton Rouge, Louisiana native. And without further delay, Trailblazers, here is the one and the only Phaon Spurlock. Phaon, thank you for being our guest on today's episode, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Phaon and I actually met in New York City a couple of weeks ago, attending the Black Enterprise B Modern Man Tour. And he was actually on their panel for a talk that they had. And I was just inspired by some of his responses there. And we got talking after, and I said, I really needed to have him on the podcast. And so I'm really excited that we have a chance to kind of wrap tonight and talk with you a bit and have you share your story. So, I was following your story. I mean, you have so much happening, right? You grew up did you actually grow up in Louisiana?
I did. I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
So what was your dream as a kid? I know it was not business, given what you focused on in college.
It was so much. So, I guess going to high school and college years, it was definitely, I wanted to be a pharmacist. And so all the way in high school, all the way through college, I actually went to pre-pharmacy at my university, then also transferred into pharmacy at Texas Southern, but it was just the beginning of it, and I did not like it at all. So I left and I went back to my school and I finished with a biology degree because I was already basically 2 years into a biology degree. So totally different from what I'm doing now. But there was definitely things I gained from that experience. And one thing I tell everyone, you can always pull something from your past. And what I pull from biology is research. it helped me become a better marketer, because that's one of the things you do as a marketer, research. So psychology, that's what you do all day, every day. So it definitely helped me out with that.
That's interesting. So walk us through this transition, right? From living like a lion at Southeastern Louisiana, as you're studying biology, and then I kind of heard something about transition to Texas, but I know that you are now placed in New York, right? That's where you're living today. So you're in New York. You're a marketer for Prudential, and you've created 2 companies that are involved in the men's fashion industry. Walk us through this transition. What took place in that time frame?
So while in college, I just had the opportunity because I was working with a lot of different student organizations on campus, and one was our Student Government Association, where I was the director of our programs and events. And so I was basically responsible for all of our homecoming events and parades and all of the large events for the university. Well, someone got wind of it at Island Def Jam Music Group, and they reached out to me and asked would I be interested in an internship, a college promotion internship. I applied and I got it. So that kind of spearheaded everything from there. From that opportunity, I had a chance to meet Rick Ross and Jay-Z, Cassette Michelle, a few different artists, and I had to basically work on creating smaller concerts for them and also promotional opportunities for them in the Southwest region. So working with some of the universities in Louisiana and Texas and Mississippi. So that really kind of spearheaded it all. And I had a friend, Natasha, she basically was like, you have such an interesting and awesome life. You get to, meet all these celebrities and hang out. Why don't you write about it? So I was like, I'm not really into, that right now, because blogging was kind of just kicking off then. And that was, I believe, in 2005, I believe it was. And it was just kind of getting up there. So she's like, you should have a blog. And I was like, I don't know if I have the time for it. So she essentially created my blog, put the name together. She started me off, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to do it now. And then she just created it. So I was just writing about my life and the things I was doing on a day-to-day basis, the celebrities I was meeting, and also what they were wearing. So through that, I also had an opportunity to come to New York, where, Island Def Jam is based. So I had an internship with Island Def Jam. I came here to New York, where I'm now, and also had a theater internship. So I had 2 internships at the same time in New York City. So that just exposed me to so much more, fashion world and the fashion industry. So from there, I just gained a real love and appreciation for that industry. And still during this time, I knew kind of wanted to go into the marketing space, especially with that internship at Island Def Jam. So I transitioned the blog over into more of a men's lifestyle magazine, where I focused during that time on fashion. And I would have interviews with designers. I would go to Fashion Week. I would do trend reporting, trend spotting, things of that nature. And it just kind of blew up, really. I didn't know much about it. As far as the blogging world, I just did what I thought was good for me. And it ended up just being kind of like a big thing. And from there, I kept working with it, kept doing that. And I guess from that love of writing about fashion so much and writing about lifestyle and travel and arts and culture and society events, things of that nature, I just wanted to kind of go in the space of I love clothes. I love style. I think I could probably come up with some things that I would like, and I'll see if people will like it as well. And it happened, and then that's where Brooklyn comes into play. I've always kind of tampered and tinkered around with doing kind of like menswear apparel, even when I was in college, but I just never thought I had the funds to do it. So I just kind of maybe in the future I'll work on it and I'll check it out. But now after just kind of just grilling myself and just saying I should just jump out there and just do it and make it work. And if it fails, at least I can say that I tried. And that's what I'm doing right now. Brooklyn League is definitely my baby now. It's men's apparel, accessories, and home goods. So it's a very exciting time for me right now.
Exciting. So, you have so much experience kind of working with different sides of the corporate world in Island Def Jam. And, you've worked with several companies, right? Now, today you're with Prudential.
Yes.
What have been some of the biggest lessons you've learned about yourself while working in these different corporate marketing gigs that actually carried over and are helping you to create and grow, the magazine and then now with Brooklyn League?
I would say it's definitely discipline. Because, I mean, for me, coming in from, Baton Rouge and coming to, like, the big city of New York, and kind of just adapting to the lifestyle that is, of a New Yorker. So it was just discipline because there's so much to do here in New York where you can kind of get into anything that you want, pretty much. So I think just working in a space or a corporate space where, you have to be here at a certain time, you have to, be present, this and that, kind of helped out as far as discipline on my end. But what I really think I learned the most from is when I worked in nonprofit. I worked in nonprofit for 5.5 years. It was a great experience only because,
were you doing marketing?
I was doing marketing. I was leading the marketing initiative for a nonprofit in New York City. And the great thing is that I met some of my best friends while working that job. But aside from that, working in a nonprofit space, you have to be able to do pretty much any and everything. So you become a master of So you become a master of everything because you have to. There's no choice. I mean, you have shoestring budgets. Staff is short, so you have to jump in where you have to. So I think as far as being an entrepreneur now, I think working in the nonprofit space definitely helped me out because I pretty much can run my business, any aspect of my business, and I definitely took those necessary steps to learn every aspect of business. So in case a photographer, ends up bailing out on me last minute, well, I know photography. So I can jump right in and do the photo shoot. The things like that, I feel like it's key when you're starting your company, just knowing every aspect of it. Maybe not being a master at every aspect of it, but at least knowing what to do. And I feel like I learned that while working in nonprofit, honestly.
Right. So let's talk about entrepreneur in you, right? What's it like to have an entrepreneurial idea that that hits you, right? And it goes from days to weeks to months, sometimes years, and you go through the perseverance and you touched on the discipline, right? To kind of take this idea to developing a plan and doing the research that you have brought in from your biology experience, right? And then you put these into tasks and you work really hard, and with a little bit of luck, this vision is realized, and you have this magazine, and then now you have Brooklyn League about to come to life. What's that experience like for you?
So I'll come back a little bit. I have so many ideas all the time about businesses and new ideas that I want to start. And there are a lot of times where I would shy away from an idea and for no reason. It's just that I think that I don't have the time, which, I don't have a lot, with so much I'm doing right now, I don't have a lot of time. But you can be your worst enemy in situations like that, because you can definitely talk yourself out of an amazing idea and that can flourish into an amazing company. So I will say this before I even jump into that to anyone who may be listening, to this, is that go for any idea that you have, go for it. Just check it out. Just do research on it and actually go there and actually try to make it work. So for me now, going from the process of learning an industry on the retail side of it and where I'm now with Brooklyn League, it's been exciting, honestly. I love learning new things. I love taking a risk. And so this is a huge risk for me. I have no formal training in design. However, I have a lot of experience within that industry. So actually, my biggest thing is I was working with a lot of my friends who work in the industry who are designers as well. So picking up anything that I can from them, just picking their brains on how does it work and different fabrics and what works well together and colors and things like that. So I think the whole part up until where I am now, I'm about to launch Brooklyn League, it's been exciting, but it's also been a bit nerve-wracking. And I must say I'm nervous, and not nervous because I don't think I have a great product. I think I have an amazing product. I think my products are great, and I think every entrepreneur should get to that point where they feel like this is exactly what I want. I'm just nervous at the fact that when I hit that button and I launch the site, it's just what's next? It's now I'm waiting. Now I'm waiting for my first sale. So that's the point that's got a little bit of nerve-wracking. I'm ready to get to that point of I have my first official sale from the website. But it took a lot of patience. Just specifically for the fashion where I'm doing now, it took me a lot of different samples. So I had to get things produced, several different times just to get exactly what I want, which costs a lot of money and that's also a lot of time. But again, I mean, this is something that's fun. It's new. It's exciting. It's not my day-to-day life, I say. But so the whole process thus far has been pretty exciting for me. And I think the biggest part is just the learning, the learning curve, but also just getting to the point to where I know exactly what I'm saying about the industry, because as far as the retail side and the design side, so that's pretty exciting for me.
So why did you actually create BKLYN League, though? You're a marketing research guy.
Mm-hmm.
What was the big opportunity that you saw that most other fashion entrepreneurs were missing out on that sparked the thought that, you know what, there is a void that I can fill with BKLYN League? What was it?
So for me, I love Brooklyn. I've been in Brooklyn for 10 years now. That's including my internship, but 10 years now.
Right.
Love the borough, love the people, love the culture, and I want to share that with people. I think what I'm trying to do that's a little bit different from other brands that are maybe based in Brooklyn is I have a philanthropic component to it. So everyone who uses the name Brooklyn for their business, obviously it's going to do kind of well. I mean, or at least it's going to get some recognition somewhere because Brooklyn is known worldwide, right? So using that automatically gets you some type of clout. So my thing is I want to take that clout, the name of Brooklyn, but I also want to give back to Brooklyn. So I think that kind of sets me apart. What I'm doing is I'm working with nonprofit organizations that are based in Brooklyn to give back, to start different art programs within high schools. I'm very interested in working with nonprofits, and I'm actually working with one right now. I'm in the process of working with one right now to provide clothing for men who are low income, who can't afford suits or ties for interviews. I feel like that's a big thing. I really want to kind of close that gap there, because that I've seen so many times when I was working in nonprofit, there are so many men who have the skills, have everything else, but yet they can't afford to buy a suit for an interview, or they can't afford to do certain things, or they don't have the interviewing skills, right? So that's a big thing that I want to really focus on, and mostly and ideally focusing with men of color. So I really want to help out in that aspect, tying in the fashion side, the fashion world, but also tying into something that's giving back. And as far as the art programs, many of the schools in New York City, they don't have art programs. So what I want to do is fundraise, also offer my time and my knowledge, the things that I've learned thus far, and also my friends' knowledge to help start art programs in New York City. So it would basically maybe an after-school program or a summer program, but I really feel arts is something that I think is missing, and I see that void, and I want to get back to it. So essentially, I'm using the name of Brooklyn worldwide to bring more attention to Brooklyn, also to bring money into these disenfranchised neighborhoods, some of the neighborhoods that are in Brooklyn. So I think that is one thing that kind of sets me apart from different organizations who may use the name Brooklyn in their title, obviously to get customers.
That's fascinating, man. I love it.
Thank you.
It. I think this is an awesome model kind of taking shape. I'm excited to kind of see how this all unfolds.
Thank you. And another thing is with that is most e-commerce sites, they don't do that. Even though I'm e-commerce, I want the brand to be very much on the ground. I want to have, even though I have a physical location, I want people to know it's Brooklyn-based. We are in the community. We are at the events, and we're at the talking to the nonprofits that are based here. We're talking to the schools that are here. So I want to make sure that I don't lose that offline opportunity.
Right. So BKLYN League is actually going to be a brick and mortar?
It's not. It's online. But I think my offline presence is going to be the fact that we're going to be so tapped into the community, and we're going to be very present at things that are improving the different communities.
Right. Tell me about a time that maybe you had a major fear that kind of held you back from experiencing and allowing you to realize one of these visions that you had.
Let's see, because there's so many. There's so many times I held myself back on ideas, and I'll just kind of talk broadly on it. I think for me, it was the fear of obviously just failure. Even though I think I had this idea, my thing was, oh, well, I don't have the knowledge base. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of this certain industry right now, so I don't know if I should even tap into it. For example, I had an app idea. And I wrote out the plan. I wrote out exactly what I wanted to do, how it would work, the whole thing. Being a marketer, you become very well versed in writing like decks and proposals and all these things. Yeah. So I had my business plan had everything already wrote out. However, something stopped me, and the something was I never worked in the tech space. I don't know how to even approach it. I don't know how to do this. And that actually held me back from even launching or even pursuing. So right now, to this day, I still have the information, but it's just sitting around. And it's just and it's collecting dust because I think that I don't have any experience in it, which now looking at it now, now I don't have the time to do that, to start that. But now I'm looking at it now, I'm just like, well, I just started a fashion brand for men, a menswear brand, and I never worked in that space besides journalism. So I had to teach myself. So I think for me, it was definitely getting older and becoming a little bit more wiser and just talking to my friends who are older than me and hearing their stories of when they missed opportunities. And telling me you should just go for it and you should just do it. So now I'm telling all the young men that I mentor, just go for it, just do it, just check it out, just try it out. So that's. I think fear is a natural thing, and it's always going to occur. It's just figuring out how you can curb it. So I think that's the biggest thing, learning for yourself, because everyone has a different method of doing that. But I think learning yourself and learning how you can stop that from manifesting, because it definitely will ruin great ideas that become great business.
Do you think that the passion for the idea is what eventually trumps fear? So, your passion for wanting to realize the idea for Brooklyn League was stronger than your fear about the things you didn't know to put that business in place?
I think that's a component of it. I know for me, whatever I do, whatever either company I work for or a brand that I start, it has to have some philanthropic component to it. And I think some of the ideas that I had previous did not have a way so I can tie it together in a good way. And I think that kind of stopped me. Even to this day, I work for Prudential Financial, and I absolutely love the company because before I even applied, I knew the history. I knew the 140-year history, and I knew how much they give back to various communities. You name it, any community, they give back. LGBT, they give back to Hispanic, they're Asian American, African American, you name it. And since the beginning, since 140 years ago. So I think that was the big
part of the culture.
Yeah, part of the culture. I think sometimes we think of these ideas and we think, oh, this is I'm going to make a lot of money, and which is good things. Okay, I want to make money because I'm going to start a business and not making money. But I think when I was thinking about these certain ideas that didn't get off the ground, it was mainly because of that. It was driven by the fact of money and not necessarily what is this product or this app or whatever it is, what is it going to do to help people?
Right.
It doesn't have to be directly this is a nonprofit, but how I'm going to use what this product is to kind of have a roundabout way of helping out others.
Right.
And I think that is, to go back to what you said, kind of helped me with Brooklyn League, and why I was so much more into doing that, doing Brooklyn League.
And that's it, right? So, I'm looking at your story. Giving back and volunteering and just giving of yourself is woven into who you are in so many ways. And I just feel you figuring that model out and how to weave that piece, that philanthropic piece into Brooklyn League is what probably propelled you through the fair, right?
Oh, yeah.
How do you, dude, you're working for Prudential. You have online magazine, you have Brooklyn League, you have all these volunteer activities that we haven't even started talking about. How do you impose life balance, eating right, exercise, other important elements of a healthy life when you're, you probably put in another 6 to 8 hours a day trying to manage everything else beyond your 9 to 5?
Well, so I think as far as like balancing my time and things like that, I think it's balancing in general. So the thing is, there's so many hours in a day that we don't utilize, and I tap into those hours. So I wake up very early. To me, it's very early, and that's 5:30 a.m. That's pretty early for me. So I wake up and I'm a bit work until 9. So I wake up at 5:30, get ready, I go to the gym, come back, I have breakfast, I start doing some work on Brooklyn League and LuxuriousPROTOTYPE, and then I get ready, then I transition over getting ready from work. The great thing for me right now is I work remotely a lot of the time because my job is not based in the city that I live in. So it affords me the opportunity to work all the way up until 9 a.m.
You have like commute hours, right?
Right. So I'm going to have commute hours. So I work on Brooklyn League and LuxuriousPROTOTYPE all the way up until 9 o'clock. Then I switch over and I start working for Prudential until 5 o'clock or whenever I'm done with that. And I start right back on Brooklyn League and LuxuriousPROTOTYPE. And also utilize a lot of my weekend time. Most people, and this is what I tell any entrepreneur, you're going to work weekends. You have to work weekends, honestly. Like you can't take off if you're starting a company. Like you just can't, because those are the times that you need to really focus on your company, especially if you're working for another company as well while building your own brand. So I do that. I schedule everything. I schedule all of my lunches, my dinners with my friends. If we're going out for drinks, if I'm going to do laundry, everything is on a schedule. And my friends make fun of me because I always ask them to send me a calendar invite. It's like, let's all the time my friends say, let's maybe catch up and let's grab some drinks. And just like, great, send me a calendar invite. Because if it's not on the calendar, it kind of doesn't exist. So I will forget about it. So that's another thing I do. And there are certain tools out there that really help me out. Like I use Trello a lot. It's an app that's good for scheduling and also just like keeping time management and also your tasks. So I use several different apps, and I use those mornings, and sometimes I use those late nights. I mean, sometimes it may equate to where I'm not sleeping as many hours as I should. And I definitely believe in getting adequate sleep. But sometimes when you're building a business, you may have sleepless nights. You may have nights you probably go to sleep and sleep 2 hours. And I'm not advising or advocating for anyone to do that, because I don't. It may be like once every week or so. I have like a night like that when I'm just really focused on something. I'm writing a proposal, or I'm writing something. I need to get it out, and I'll do that. So I'm definitely not advocating it, because I totally believe in making sure you have a balanced diet, also making sure you get sleep, and also I believe definitely in working out and having a clear mind, because it really helps you to have that mindset. Whenever I work out in the morning, my days go by much smoother, and I feel like I can get more accomplished. I
feel your pain. I probably have 3 or 4 nights a week that I'll go on like 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night, and just grind the rest of the time. Yeah, and that's what's required, right? If you want to realize you dream.
Absolutely. Take advantage of those hours sometimes, especially if you're under a tight deadline or something that you just really want to get out. Sometimes you just have to go through that, and then the next day you figure out how you're going to stay up, but you you make it work.
Lots of coffee. Phaon, what are you most grateful for right now?
I'm grateful for my support system, honestly. My family and my friends and my extended family, which are my close friends here in New York. Without my family and without my friends, I don't think I would have gotten as far as I did, because they really support me into the fact that always encouraging me, saying you can do it. If you need any help, any resources, I'm here to help you. And I'm just really, really, really grateful for having them around, honestly. For those times when I'm frustrated with something that didn't go well on a project, or when I'm happy and I'm really happy about something that's going extremely well. They're there and say, like, let's have fun. Like, let's celebrate this moment. We celebrate any achievements, no matter how small they may be. At my friend circle and my family, whenever I go back home, we like to celebrate, and that's what we do. And that's one thing I pull from my culture from being from Louisiana. We celebrate everything. We even celebrate death. Like, I'm not sure if you've ever seen, like, a second-line funeral from, like, New Orleans or things like that, where people...
I have not, no.
It's a procession. So after the funeral, everyone walks in the street, and they have the casket and everything, and people are dancing. People are listening to music. There's live band, and it's a celebration of life. So I really think that pulling that over into where I am now in New York City and making sure my friend circle has that same type of feel, where we celebrate each other and we encourage each other, I think that helps. That definitely, I'm definitely grateful for that.
That's awesome, man. So what can we look forward to, with you? Are there any big dreams for, like, BKLYN League? I mean, you've shared so much about kind of, it getting off the ground right now, but, like, what's your 10-year vision for BKLYN League?
I eventually want to have a brick and mortar spot. I want to have a physical location, a BKLYN League, definitely starting off clearly in Brooklyn. And I would love to see my brand BKLYN League in stores internationally as well. Nice. So I really do see this being something that's a bit different from traditional e-commerce sites, because there's that offline component, and that's also there that philanthropic component. And I would like to see that model recreated, and I would like to see BKLYN League venture off into different cities and having the same model as well.
Well, when you're ready to go international, you definitely need to connect with Tamika Montgomery from episode. I did an interview with her on episode 27. In that episode, she highlighted that 95% of the world's consumers are not in the United States.
Yep. I
which
agree.
Is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy statistic. But yeah, I'll definitely pair you with her and encourage you to listen to her episode. It's great.
I definitely will.
Before we wrap up here, we like to extract some resources from you. So I want to know, what's one book that you've read in the past year that's inspired you most?
I would say probably The First 90 Days. It's a really good book, and it's just talking about, and it helped me, and this is more like not so much on the entrepreneurial side, but it definitely helped me transition to any new job that I start, and it basically talks about and it helped me out a great deal for Prudential. I started working at Prudential as well. It basically talks about your first 90 days and how you figure out the culture, you figure out your like their needs and how you can make that work, and how you can set a plan with your boss and also people that you work with, your peers, to help you succeed and help the company succeed within those first 90 days. So those are the most pivotal points if you're starting a new job, it's those first 90 days. So I would recommend that to anyone who's maybe starting a new job, and it definitely helped me. And that's probably the most recent thing, because I started Prudential a little over a year ago. So that definitely helped me transition over, because previous to that I was working in nonprofit.
Right.
So it's going from nonprofit to this huge corporate, mega financial institution. So it definitely helped me out.
Who's the author of The First 90 Days?
It's Michael Watkins.
For those listening, we'll be sure to post links to all these resources on our show notes page at tbpod.com. Phaon, what's something small you've done this month that you're proud of?
Well, I helped one of my friends. So she has a company that she just started, and it's a marketing branding company. And I think we had a session where we both just kind of shared things that we're doing and we're working on right now. And I think just by offering an ear, and also being that I actually had, at one point, I had a media marketing firm similar to what she's doing now. And I think just offering the advice and offering some of the knowledge I have with her, sharing with her on how to move about, how to figure out your price and quotes and things like that, your fees. So I think just working with my friend, like someone who I really care about, and trying to see her succeed.
Right. That's awesome. We need more of that, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So you touched on a couple apps before, but I'd love you to name an online resource. It could be an app, software, or tool that you use every day that you can't live without.
I would say probably Google Calendar. That's probably like something I need every day. I look at my agenda and my schedule every day. That's something. But aside from that, I mentioned a little bit earlier Trello. That's good because it also has the functionality where I can bring in other people into my cards. And so you create these different cards, and it can be different tasks, and you can have different lists of like to do or if it's done or completed already, and you can bring someone else into that, and they can like be assigned to a certain task, and they can like move things around and say like I'm in the beginning stage or in the middle stage or I'm completed with this task. So I think that's good. It's good for collaborating with other people, and it's also good for me for making sure I have my to-do list and and also it kind of works with my calendar as well. So I use that pretty often.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that resources. So, Phaon, you do a ton of volunteer work, and before we wrapped up, you touched on the fact that you give back to young men of color.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, why volunteering is important to you, and why are you at 30 years old so focused on giving back of your time, talents, and treasures?
It's important to me because I see the need. Especially within the Black community, I see, and that's mostly I work with the people of color as far as like my volunteerism or my mentoring. I see there's a great need for that. There's a great need for males to step up and be present in some of these young males' adult lives. So I see the need, and I also see how it can affect a young man or a young woman when they have someone in their life who, aside from their family, aside from their mom and their dad, someone else who has their back, who's there for them, that can listen to anything they have to say, and just be there. Because a lot of times these young men and women, that's all they need. They just need someone who's not their family to hear them out, that's an adult. So I see the change, and I'm a mentor, and I'm also a junior board member for Eagle Academy, which is an all-male school based in New York City. So we have schools pretty much in every borough in New York City, and we also have it in Newark. And majority of the students are young men of color, and these students are brilliant. Talking to them, and it's just like they're far beyond their years, but sometimes they just need that extra guidance, and they need sometimes they need that tough love. And that's one of the things I really love about the school. The professors there, they have tough love. But the students are very disciplined, very, very smart. There was a 100% graduation rate and also college acceptance. Wow. But the past, I think, 2 years, I believe it was.
100% college acceptance?
Yes.
Wow.
So, and aside from, education, the education realm of it, they're also amazing athletes as well. They're getting scholarships to great schools, and we're winning championships, games, and things like that. And it's just awesome. It's awesome to see these young men happy about school. They're excited. They come to school on the weekend, during the weekends, over the summer, and they are just excited to be there. And I'm excited, and the rest of the mentors that we have and the junior board members, we're excited to be there with them as well and seeing them progress and helping them out. I think that's what it's all about, is building community, because these young men and women will be the future. And we want a great future. We want to have a great future. So I think by giving my time, that helps out so much. And also, when I was younger, I was very much involved in so many different organizations. My parents put me in so many different things. I was in 100 Black Men Golf Association. There was Deca Boule, where I was with Alpha Phi Alpha, so it was kind of like an enrichment program. So all these things helped mold Phaon, who I am today. So I feel like I need to give back what I received.
That's awesome, man. So, before we wrap up, I just want to, you've been doing so much of this, but I want to invite you to take the last couple minutes, impart an inspiring message that can help our listener to elevate their game and blaze their trail.
I would say, so it's a two-part thing. I would definitely say to just go for it. Just do it. I know I said this several times throughout this, but that is my mantra now. That is what I live by. Just do it. If you have an idea, if you have something that you're working on, go for it. And with that, also making sure to cut out negativity. If there are people who are negative in your life, cut them out. And I'm very a strong believer in that, because that will sometimes be your downfall from being the next, mega entrepreneur with a great idea that's doing very well. So I would say cut out negativity out of your life, and that can be a person, that can be anything that's negatively impacting you. It can be your community, it can be your neighbor, like anything like that nature. Cut it out, because it will definitely fester and it will manifest and it will not help you out. And also, going back to it, just doing it, taking your dreams to the next level, research, find people who know more than you, and making sure that they're in your circle, making sure that these people are surrounding you, and also putting back into you this knowledge that they have. And I think with those things, and also just perseverance, I think you'll do well. I think you will get to a point to where you understand, and then you can become that person to also help somebody else out in the future if they're going through something that you went through in the past.
Man, great advice, man. I'm fascinated by your story. I appreciate and thank you for, being a part of the Trailblazers podcast. You're now part of the family.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being bold to step up to, today and be honest and transparent and kind of help provide some knowledge and resources for our community. And for me, more than anything, reading your story really inspired me to give back even more than I'm able to right now, to find ways to build in philanthropy into what I'm looking ahead at building within the Trailblazers structure itself. So
right.
Thank you for that.
I wanted to say this. A lot of people think when they hear philanthropy, they have to be a millionaire,
wealthy,
or have to be a wealthy person to do that. No, you can give just your time. You can volunteer. Right. You can be a mentor. There's so many different avenues of giving back to different communities. And you just have to find what's best for you. And that may take research, and it may take some time talking to other people who may volunteer or do different things. But find what works for you and do that. Don't do what everyone else is doing, because that you won't probably be as fulfilled. But if you do something and actually give to a cause that you really want, or you really believe in, then you will be fulfilled.
No, and that's a great point. You can choose to give a little, you can choose to give, and I think giving your time has tremendous impact. In some cases, more than you giving a small sum of money.
Oh, yeah.
The money is absolutely important, right? But, giving your time to some of the causes you've mentioned, tonight. Face time with kids and, having that impact, mentoring, our youth has so much more power in the long term than, you kind of just donating, a couple dollars here or there.
Right. And it makes you become, an all-around better person. It really does. You
Absolutely.
get to learn how to communicate and also work with people that may not be exactly like you,
Right.
And I think that's key, especially if you're starting a business. You have to be able to communicate well, and you have to be able to communicate with people who aren't like you. So to get your business off the ground, or to even sell your product or anything, you have to be personable. And I think you can definitely gain that skill through volunteering. Because sometimes you have to step out your comfort zone, and that makes you grow right there. Just stepping out something that's not maybe so familiar to you, but you know the impact it's going to have, and then you learn from the person just as well as they may learn from you as well.
Right. All right. Phaon, before we let you go, please tell us how we can stay connected to you and your platform and learn more about BKLYN League, and we'll go ahead and finish up for today.
Definitely. So you can find me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Phaon, so it's at PHAON. You can also follow the brands on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. It's BKLYN League all together. And for LuxuriousPROTOTYPE, we're on all platforms as well, and it's LuxPROTOTYPE.
And again, I'll be sure to post all the tags, all the handles for all the social links and his website on our show notes page at tvpod.com. Phaon, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate you being on the podcast, and we're excited for you, and we wish you the best with the launch of Brooklyn League.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This has been very, very, very good, and I really thank you for reaching out. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
You're welcome, man.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Trailblazers podcast. I'll be posting links to all of Phaon's book recommendations and resources mentioned in today's episode on our show notes page, and that's found at tvpod.com. Listen, if today was your first time listening to the podcast, I just want to say welcome. We are so happy to have you here, and we encourage you to hit that subscribe button on your app, then go back and browse through some of the past episodes. Some really amazing folks have spread some knowledge and wisdom on us in the past few weeks, and I don't want you to miss out on that. If you're a fan of the podcast, if you've been listening for a while, you enjoy today's content and our content week over week, I would so appreciate you leaving us a review on iTunes if you've not yet had a chance to do so. It's really easy, and it would help us tremendously to get the podcast in front of more listeners. Don't miss next week's episode. New episodes are pushed out each and every Monday morning at 5 a.m. So Trailblazers, jump off this podcast today. Go find a way to rise above, go way beyond, and keep blazing your trail. Cheers.